and I am gonna give a brief contextualization of this proposal. I will be sharing also this presentation on the side chat of this space, so that anyone can also jump in this and follow the presentation. So some of the relevant links are also here. We made a forum post in the Optimism forum discourse, where we contextualized a little bit this proposal, and we said also the dates that we will be having this training. Here we also have the Gravity DAO calendar, where you can also have the reminder of all of these spaces. We have the Graviton guide, that is another slide deck, where we have step-by-step mediation for DAOs. And here we also have links to the Optimism Discord server, to the Gravity Discord, to the Gravity DAO online course, to the Optimism docs, and to our RFP on GitHub. So I am gonna continue and say that the idea with this is to start this Graviton path, and the first stage is to get a training. Then our idea is to support on the design space, to contribute and gain experience on conflict management on Optimism, and then in a next stage, we hope to have a group of active Gravitons that can manage conflict inside your community. This training will run for 6 weeks, and after the training, Gravitons shall be able to make an effort to be present and accessible to the community, bringing high vibes, also separate the people from problems. Normally, when we are in a dispute, we tend to say that the dispute is a person, and we hope that after this training you understand that it's a good practice to separate the actual individuals from the problems that they are involved. Also, we want to promote self-determination from parties, and promote empathy between conflicting parties too. Also, after this training, we want you to be able to adapt your mindset for tolerance to conflictive situations, to be able to propose alternatives to deal with paradoxes, and to act according to institutional regulations, while also implementing actions to frame unwanted behavior within rules and boundaries. So basically, this is our schedule. We are right now in the first lesson, and I will be repeating this same lesson in an alternative time zone on Thursday, but we will have on Friday at this same time a special lesson where we will have a guest whose name is Durgadas, and he's someone who is amazing, and you will learn a lot from him on Friday. It would be really cool if we could have some of these calls on the event of the Discord on Optimism, so that there's the reminder. Next week we will cover with Nicola some lessons, and I will take also the alternative schedule around conflict management and mediation. And we are still waiting for the confirmation of our facilitator on nonviolent communication and difficult conversations. That is a skill that is very needed. Sometimes we are facing a difficult conversation, and the communication that we use is not strategic for the management of the situation, and sometimes instead of trying to solve something with communication, we end up making things worse. Then Bianca will come and we'll talk about mental health awareness in DAOs and personal time versus work. That is something really important because one reason that helps to prevent conflict is mental health care, and also that when we are having affectations in our mental health, we also tend to suffer from burnout, or we also are more prone to be affected by frictions in our teams. Then we will also talk about the optimism agreements and awareness of the social norms. Bianca will take that, and then Nicola and myself will also talk about negotiation strategies and BATNA, that is the best alternative of a negotiated agreement. And we'll have a special guest, Livia from the Common Stack, talking about organizational culture and Ostrom's framework as a way to design our organizations, including conflict management. Sometimes when we are designing organizations, we don't take or we don't make a space for conflict management inside organizations. And in Ostrom's framework, she says that it plays a key role in sustainable resource management to have mechanisms to solve conflict. So after that, we will have a practical lesson where we will work on a Miro board, trying to design how would be a conflict management process for Optimism. And then we will also have a conflict simulation. In the past conflict simulations, we've given to the audience the roles to play the conflictive parties, but in this conflict simulation, the team of Gravity DAO will play the role of the conflicting parties, and you will play the role of the mediator or the facilitator of the situation. After that, we will have some sessions on self-reflection, feedback, and proposed next steps. So in these 6 weeks, we will be following also the structure of our online course, and something that we expect for your participation is that, and that would be ideal, it would be that you can check the content related to each week on our course. And also that we will be distributing POAPs. At some point during this call, I will be sharing a QR that you can scan with your phone, and that way you will be able to claim a POAP. After you claim, there will be 6 POAPs, and if you claim 5 or more, then we will distribute a special POAP of the generation of Gravitons. So the requirement to become a Graviton is to participate in at least 5 of these week's calls. So as I was saying earlier, we have this thing called the Graviton Introductory Course, that is an online course that we made on specifically these topics. And our idea would be for you to enroll in this course, and also to have studied or read. You have to click here on Get It Now, and then come to the curriculum. And okay, I will share this link too. And here this week I will be covering these topics. Also, I will be covering a little bit the introduction, but I will be also deep diving on the theory of these topics. And the idea is that for next week, you can also read the content of week 2, so that when Nicola comes, she doesn't have to repeat the same content, but we can go deep and even we can have a conversation. I know that as this is the first one of the lessons, many of you may have not read this week's topic, but if you have, please pose any question or feel free to speak and share. So yes, the first week is around conflict theory, trauma and decolonization. The second week is around mediation, communication and conflict resolution in DAOs. Then we will cover nonviolent communication on open and difficult conversations. Then we will go on mental health, personal time and work. And the week 5 will be Gravity Deep Dive, BADNA and Organizational Culture and Ostrom's Framework. So with this, I will finish my introductory part, and we'll start into week 1, that is Intro to Conflict Management in DAOs. And the first meme here that you can see is that everywhere, conflict is everywhere. And it's not something for you to be afraid of. It's something that it's something that we can tend to normalize. Like we don't want to only understand conflict as something that happens to others, or we don't want to talk about something about conflict as something that has to be silenced, or that has to be under the carpet. Instead of that, we want to normalize talking about conflict and to study it. Sometimes, as we don't like to see conflict, we also don't like to study it, or we don't see the importance of studying it. But actually, studying and practicing conflict management is very practical. It's a practical philosophy. Conflict itself is not bad. It is an expression of diversity of interest, ideas, and point of view. It arises in all human relationships, and like crises, it can be excellent opportunities to grow, emerge stronger, learn, and improve. For example, we all have had different conflicts in our life, where we have also grown, or where we have identified things that we don't want, or things that we want to change, and from that we also have improved or learned something. And that when assuming that conflicts are negative, people and institutions tend to fear them and adopt one of these two attitudes. One, they resort to force, power, or violence to crush them, and that's why we see so much war in the world and violence. Or they ignore them, hoping that they will pass without addressing them. And these two are consequences of thinking that conflict itself is negative. But there's also a third way where we can try to create value from communication and from agreement between parties. And when conflict arises, both parties may believe that they have only one logical stance, since each one sees their situation exclusively from their particular point of view. And that's why it's so important, dialogue as a mechanism that allows to search for collectively constructed solutions. And the last comment here is that the quality of an institution is not determined by whether or not it has conflict, but how it manages to address them. So this is like a basic conflict that we have used and referenced to in the past, and is a basic representation of a conflict where two people are seeing a reality from their point of view, and each of them thinks that they are right. But what is not seen? Why Do they want their opinions to be heard? What are their feelings? What are their needs? And for example, if there would be a possible agreement between that other person to disagree, because also sometimes we want to impose our own perspective, and sometimes we can also understand that a point of view does not represent the totality. Like this give depending on the point of view where you stand on, you may see things different as the other, and that's why conflict itself is not bad. It's just a complementary view of reality. We can reference conflict as the other, as the existence of a shadow, of the things that we don't want to see, or the things that we may be missed. So really, our reality is so complex that our conflicts are also very complex, and sometimes we want to see conflict as something simple and give a simple answer to a conflict, and conflict as just like as diseases is just like the tip of the iceberg of a whole situation. You like in a conflict, it is not only sometimes the things that are displayed, but also the roots that are causing it. And sometimes we want to focus on conflict resolution, like solving the episodes of conflict, but not really processing and integrating the conflict within our systems. And this expression of the other, this expression of shadow, of diversity, also proposes us something that is dialogue. And this is something that has been studied by philosophers through history. And for example, ancient philosophers like Plato and Socrates talked a lot about how there's a thesis and also an apparent antithesis that creates then a synthesis, and how from questioning ourselves we can know more about our own ideas, and how questioning ourselves and questioning our ideas makes them better, the same way that conflict can make organizations better, or even ourselves better. And in more modern times, we also see Hegel and Marx talking about dialectic in a more materialistic sense. And for example, Marx says that the conflict between the society has also evolved our own system. So for example, the division and the conflict between an unorganized society and a society of division of labor led to an empire, and the conflict between the empire and the barbarians led to an aristocracy, and the aristocracy conflicted with the bourgeoisie, then created something. So what I am trying to say is that evolution is not linear, and that evolution sometimes comes also as a reaction of the existence of the other. And we've seen also how, for example, revolutions or independence movements also claim for something that is not provided within the system they're at, and through their conflict they are materializing the expression of a need. So if we see that conflict and dialogue can be a motor of change, and also that can be something that supports evolution of our own systems, we should try to create also platforms that can integrate these episodes, because when we don't include conflict, or when we try to exclude the transformational capacities of conflict, we are somehow like making more slow and more rigid our platforms and our systems. And instead of designing our systems to evolve in a straight line, we can try to make our systems to evolve through conflict. So a transformational platform is a motor that feeds from conflict. Normally, our institutions, if they are too rigid, conflict can break them. But with a transformational platform, what we are trying to do is that to integrate the conflict in the design of the platform, so that it's not only that it resists the conflict, but that it feeds from it. And something that stands out from a conflict transformational platform is that has to be both short-term responsive and long-term strategic. So each of these circles needs like a short-term response, and that would be like tackling the tip of the iceberg or solving an episode of a dispute. But we need also to be long-term strategic, because if we solve a conflict in the short term, but we are not long-term strategic, or we are not addressing the roots of the conflict in the long term, then we may have solved an episode, but the root of the conflict is there, and a conflict around that may arise again. So yeah, we need to feed our organizations from conflict. And sometimes as we don't like to talk about conflict, we don't have proper input mechanisms from conflict. So for example, someone has a conflict and they don't know where to put it on, or they don't know who can listen to them. And then what happens in our DAO world is that things become public, and like conflict goes to forums, conflict goes to the Discord, and not to a way to feed strategically the platform. So something that we are talking since this first lesson is that there should be ways for people to input their concerns, because that's the only way that the system can know what is happening, can know how people is feeling, without things having to go public always. And when things go public, it's because they are already big. But if we can feed our input to the system, we can also propose a fast response to an issue. So, okay. Now that I have mentioned that conflict is not bad, you may think, hey, yes, theory is cool, but really managing conflict isn't pretty. Sadly, we still live in a very violent world, and instead of managing our disputes peacefully, there's a lot of violence involved in disagreements. People tend to show the worst of themselves when dealing with conflict. Managing emotions isn't easy, and you think you know someone until you are in a conflict with them. This is true. Like, I have had, for example, conflict with some of my best friends, and I love them, but I thought I knew them until I had a conflict with them, and then I saw faces of them that I've never seen. And also, like, managing emotions isn't easy. When you study conflict management, it doesn't mean that you will be never angry. Managing emotions isn't easy, and when we are angry, we can make the best speech to regret of. So um, something that is really important, and I will be talking further in this presentation, is the management of emotions. When we are hot minded, when we are angry, it's better to not type things or to not talk directly with the person involved in the dispute, because you may not be able to express yourself well. It's like when you are very angry, you shouldn't drive a car because it's dangerous. Managing a conflict it's something that needs a lot of care, and sometimes because of wanting to make like a fast solution, we end up making things worse. So it's always good to take our time when facing conflict, and if we need time, it's good to say, hey, I need some time. I am not feeling well to speak right now. Maybe I will say some things that I really won't feel proud of because I am heated right now. And managing a conflict requires the best of us. Instead of showing the worst side of us when facing a conflict, we have to show the best side of us. Also, our culture reproduces abuse and colonization in many ways, and it's so hard to trust on individuals and groups. So, yeah, maybe we can say dialogue helps us to evolve and know better our ideas, but sometimes having a dialogue is super difficult. We can also say, hey, we don't have to impose our ideas over the other. But sadly, we see war right now in the world. So the theory and the practice of conflict management is something that it's a difficult relationship. It's a difficult relationship. And even when you study conflict management, there will be times where we are facing a conflict, and you will be feeling all the emotions and all the stress and all the affectations that you know because you studied, but they are real and they will never go. So instead of like fearing to conflict, we have to be brave with them. We have to recognize them and take them as something that it's what life is presenting us to learn. And how to improve our management of conflict, because okay, we already noticed the theory, and now we are seeing that it's hard, but then how can we improve? I am going to give some basic suggestions that we've created in Gravity DAO, and hopefully this whole course helps you to improve managing your conflicts in some way or another, because as we have seen, conflict is very wide and can be something individual, but also can be something collective. So, for example, if at the end of this training you can improve your conflict management by being more careful of your mental health, that would be a really cool thing. If you improve your management of conflict by being more mindful with your communication, that would be super cool. If you improve your conflict management skills through or you practice your conflict management skills through helping others, that's super cool. So it's something that we can apply every day. For example, today I have been having a lot of emotions. This is my first call in the Optimism server. I am super excited. I want to do a great work. We've been working on the proposal and our intention to make this training for some months now, and it's like, okay, it's real. I don't want things to crash or anything, but also shit happens, and and how can I normalize more conflict than saying that yeah, that even I am having right now a management of emotions, of my own internal emotions, and a conflict inside myself, so that I can deliver the best experience from you. Um, we all have an internal dialogue, and sometimes we're very hard with our internal dialogue, and yeah, that even proposes a conflict to us, because we are being hard to us, and so we can only extend to the other what it's inside of us, and that's a principle of nonviolent communication. And if I am violent with my internal dialogue, how is that I am not going to be violent with the external dialogue with others? If I call myself, hey, you're not able, or hey, you will screw it, that's the same way that I will see the others. So a good way to also manage conflict with the others is being kind to yourself. Something that we promote is having processes to identify disputes and look for solutions. As very inspired on the transformational platform that I presented earlier, this would be a conflict management cycle that we've developed in Gravity, and we think that is useful for DAOs, where we here have a transformational platform that works within an internal management layer, where it identifies conflicts, and it proposes fast responses through negotiation and mediation with an internal follow-up, and that traduces into strategies for prevention. And here we can have the first step of the transformational strategy. But the thing is that sometimes not all conflicts can be solved through dialogue. And when a conflict cannot be solved through dialogue, we can strategically scale to an arbitration mechanism when needed. Yes, sadly, not all conflicts can be solved through dialogue, or most conflict could be solved through dialogue, but what makes them hard to solve through dialogue is the goodwill of the parties. And also, when we are talking about conflict management and mediation, we always think of the best scenario of people agreeing and producing like a value that was not included in the first observation of the conflict. For example, a solution that is beneficial for both parties. Normally, with arbitration mechanisms, the ruler rules or makes a statement in favor or against one of the parties. And this brings us a lot to the prisoner's dilemma of a situation where people think that what is good for them would immediately be bad for the other, and that a situation where you cannot like communicate to create an external idea, an additional idea that would be beneficial for both parties. And that is like the ideal scenario. When I started my career as a mediator, I thought that would be like more common than what it actually is, to have that ideal scenario where the parties agree with each other and everyone is happy, and like the outcome of the conflict was better than the initial state. So that is like the ideal situation, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes what we do is to also keep a registry of the things, because there needs to be a registry of disputes, and also to witness things, because sometimes there can happen that there is not a due process, or that there is like an abuse of power within the solution of a conflict. And um, we don't try to make the outcomes of the situations, because we are not arbitrators, but instead we facilitate tools and support the parties to try to get into an optimal or a best alternative of a negotiated agreement. But when that doesn't happen, still it's good to have a registry, because, for example, we can know how many conflicts someone has had or has been involved with, and what is like a repeated or a repeated pattern that we can identify in the behavior of a certain person. Or also we can identify which people could be for example, that could merit a sanction in within the transformational actions. Another thing is to create trust, and that is a mechanism to support conflict management. Treating others as you would like to be treated. This is something that has been in multiple religions through history, and it's also a core principle of ethics. It's something that it's the only way that you can create trust. We live in a very colonized world, where people treat other as instruments, sometimes because we are being paid. Our bosses can think that they can tell us what to do and that we will execute as machines, and that is not true. Sometimes we are not feeling well. Sometimes we will be having a familiar issue or a personal issue, and trust cannot be produced forcefully. We need to have this deliberate and intentional effort to recognize where we are coming from and reeducate ourselves to create trust. And also, trusting is super hard right now, because there's a lot of people that want to abuse us. Just right now, in the Web3 world, there are spammers. There is a lot of people that are also scammers and fishers, and people that like want your data to do to take advantage from you. So that's something that has made us defensive, but we need to be able to create trust. And because there is people that is doing wrong things in the world, it doesn't mean that we don't have to trust anyone. It means that we have to be careful on who we trust on, but still trust is the lubrication that makes possible for relationships to happen. And like the Web3 world reproduces a lot like the trustless technology, but the technology is just one of the layers of these projects. And as you are here, that you are a community, the community is another layer of these projects. And the technology can be working as a clock, but if the community is not working or is not trusting between each other, then the relationships and the coordination will be hard. So it's important to create trust. And yeah, the culture in a DAO is almost as important as the goal they pursue. And educating and caring for the well-being and development of the humans participating in an organization ends up producing a strong relational fabric that it's able to recognize the challenges presented, resist, and look for alternatives to overcome them. So that's why we are having this training, because uh, the goal of the community, of a community of optimism and of all Web3 projects, is not only, or shouldn't be only, a technical concern. It should be also a human concern, and to care for the development and the well-being of the people that participates and the culture that is being reproduced. Another way that we can also improve and work on conflict management is decolonizing our spaces. We live in a very colonizer world, and when we hear colonization, we tend to think of the 16th century, but really colonization is something that is present until now. And the means that it presents has changed, but for example, we still see people treating others as if they were their property because they are paying them. And we need to stop the idea of instrumentalization. We need to stop instrumentalizing the others and allowing ourselves to be instrumentalized. Instead of dividing and conquer, we need to unite and build. And what are some abusive patterns in mindsets and structures that we can see? For example, inequality between genders, or justifying ideas that could be harmful to others. And we still, like, even though that we are in a decentralized world, still there's people that come from first world countries with first world concerns, and people that come from third world countries with third world concerns. And those concerns are totally different. But we all also share the same needs. We all have need, for example, economic security. We all need, for example, emotional health, or we need all a circle of growth, something that inspires us. We are not only working because of the money. There's things that inspires us, things that we want. And decolonizing our spaces, it's also making space for new things, and for trust to grow. And I am almost finishing, so I think I am doing a good management of the time, but I would like to open the mic later. But one of the last of the suggestions is developing a trauma sensitive culture. When we hear the word trauma, we tend to reduce it to only some group of people. We tend to think, oh, the people that has lived the trauma, or we see it outside of us, or we only think of big traumatic events like post-traumatic disorders. But on the understanding of trauma is where we can change the fact that it's an invisible driver of what we are. We all have experienced different levels of trauma. Some of us have been discriminated. Some of us have been instrumentalized. Some of us have lived or been recipients of violence, and sometimes we are not bringing that into the table, and sometimes we want someone with a high level of trauma to, for example, be highly efficient every day. and we really don't know where we all come where people come from, and the history of our families, and the personal history that we all carry, and we all carry certain weight in our shoulders. And talking about that is recognizing it, because when we don't talk about trauma, and that we all have certain degree of trauma, we tend to see each other as not true humans, but as false personas. We tend to see the other only through a mascara, so through a facade that is what people is showing us, but not really what they are or what they are feeling. And we all carry that unseen weight, so we need to be mindful of that when interacting with others. No one of us are like robots. No one of us wakes up and feel great every day. Some of us can have addictions, concerns. Some of us can have like familiar issues, economical issues. And the only way to trust on others is also to be able to show your true self. If we are always happy, if there's no place to share what concerns to us, we will be only reproducing a one-sided speech. And I come back to identifying emotions and learning to manage them. This is a concept of the window of tolerance, and it's that we have to identify our own emotions and where are we at, to see if we are in the optimal level of functioning to deal with a situation. And for example, when we are hyper aroused, we are angry, we want to yell, we want to fight, and that is not a good state to manage a conflict. When you're hyper aroused, you may be violent, you may say things with rage, with panic, and be very reactive. But if we want to be strategic on conflict management, instead of reacting to things, we need to work on thoughtful responses. So instead of like, hey, something happened, okay, I will go there and I will fight. First, calm yourself, calm down, and design a thoughtful response. It's not like being reactive. When we are reactive, we are like we can be like a monkey. We can throw things and that instead of solving, we are helping to the conflict. We are adding to the conflict, and instead of reacting, we need to calm our head and work on thoughtful responses. Maybe you with a thoughtful response, you can express your requests, or you can identify your feelings and understand yourself better, and look for a solution that you may not see when you are reacting. So these are the two last slides, and that we are dealing with complex systems, that DAOs have the complexity of all human history in them, and that DAOs can have all kinds of conflict, from financial issues to difference in opinions, struggles in coordination, and that our DAOs should work on managing conflict, because they will have this complexity, and that having a DAO is not gonna be a walk in the park. Having a DAO is something difficult, is something complex. We don't know It's something that moves with the economy. It's something that has a lot of cultures. It's something that is also online. So there are different layers of complexity that makes DAOs prone to conflict, and that's why we have to design our DAOs with conflict management strategies. And sometimes, because of the same technical deviation and the novelty of their nature, DAOs and communities tend to suffer from the lack of proper frameworks to prevent and manage conflict. It's because we think that, okay, technology will solve it all. And we often overlook to communicate or develop processes with clear rules and boundaries to disputes getting out of control. Because it's not only the technology, it's also the human part. And what do we want to create? We want to create anti-fragile things. We want DAOs to not break from stress, but to nurture from stress. This is an example of cooking utensils from Pompeii that are hardly different from those found in today's good kitchens. And is that sometimes we tend to over technologize and underestimate the might of the equivalent of these small wheels on suitcase that will be staring at us for the next millennia. So even if we are designing technological solutions, we also need to continue working on our social structures and our means of coordination, because those are the things that have been needed since the start of humanity and will be needed through all history. We will continue having conflicts, and we need to improve and work on and use our conflict management mechanisms, because they are like a kitchen that is something that we will always need. And the same way that we have the need of eating, we will have the need of managing conflict. So managing conflict is something important. It's something that should be in the DNA of DAOs, and not only having one way to manage a conflict, because each conflict is different, but to having multiple resources to manage the complexity and the characteristics of each conflict, that each conflict is different. So you cannot have like a one tool fits all conflicts. That's not like that. You need to have multiple tools and have a big repertoire of tools to tackle the specific needs of each situation and of each conflict. And yeah, that is the end of my presentation. I don't know if some of you want to say something or share something. I am sorry for the long rant. I am sorry also if sometimes I struggle communicating myself in English. I am doing my best, and yeah, I was also a little bit nervous, but I think I covered more or less what I wanted to say, and that I hope that you're excited for the next lesson. And the last thing I'll do is to share the QR of the POAP. This should be scanned with your cell phone, and this will automatically deliver the POAP to your wallet. So I think you will need to play a small game. Like it tells you press the color, and it says like press the red button, and there are 3 buttons, and you have to press those buttons. So I will keep the QR. Oh, I see that the first person minted one. That's amazing. Congratulations. 2, that's amazing. I would like to hear some feedback, but I don't know how to bring people to the stage.
If anyone wants to talk, they can raise their hands. Otherwise, I can read from chat if you're feeling too shy for a read. So MS1, I think you said you had some questions. So if you want to drop them in chat, otherwise you can raise your hand and I'll put you up to stage. There we go. Look at that. I think you should have permissions now. You are muted, MS1. You're still muted. I'm not sure if you're trying to talk or not.
Hello, Al. Hi.
Oh.
Do you hear me now? Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, I have one question. First of all, thank you for today's session. It was really, really great. And I have a question because from this far what I hear today, I'm curious how you can open the negotiation when, for example, I'm in a losing position and the person or the group of people with I want to start negotiation have all the cards in the hands, if you know what I mean. How to start this, conversation and
Amazing. Well, we're gonna go a little bit deep on this in one of the future lessons with Nicola, but the strategy that we propose here is to find your most desirable outcome and your least acceptable agreement, and like create your zone in that, and you now know where you are able to, what you are able to give and what you are expecting. And also on the zone of possible agreement, you have to identify the other person most desirable outcome and the other person least acceptable agreement. So like trying to find what is the need of the other, and sometimes the person that you thought that was your enemy can also become your ally. And it's always really important to keep communication, um, like a breach of communication. So it's very difficult to negotiate with someone that you don't trust. It's difficult to negotiate with someone that you don't know if they will say what they are doing, or if they don't have the goodwill to execute on what they're saying, or to negotiate. So it's good to keep a good relationship with the other party. And that's why if the communication with the other party is broken, it's good to try to bring a third party that facilitates the communication.
Yeah, thank you very much. Because this question was about the example you said today about the prison, about the prisoner point of view. Like he's already on the losing position, so it's not always as easy with the conflict, because one of the side is always can be on the winning position, and some of them, like in this example, can be on the losing position. Yeah, thank you.
There is an example of the orange example, and is that there were two kids fighting over an orange, and then their mom decided to split the orange in half and give each half of the orange. And then she sees one of the kids using the juice of the orange, and then the other using the skin of the orange to make a cake. So in that situation, like splitting ended up giving them half of what they needed, and if they would have communicated, each of them could have had 100% of the pulp and 100% of the skin for their use. So the idea is that communication can help to produce mutually beneficial outcomes, while when you don't have communication, things may seem exclusive.
Understood. Thank you very much, Juan.
Yeah, thank you. I will continue sharing the POAP. And yeah, thank you all for coming. You know, for me, studying conflict is a passion, and I experience conflict every day, and it's never easy. Like managing emotions, it's super hard. Like I know that I have to take a pause. I have to take a pause, but sometimes I am like, oh, I'm so hot, and and it's normal that we feel that way. The hardest thing of conflict management is not the theory, but the practice. The same thing with nonviolent communication. You can understand the principles of nonviolent communication, but putting it into practice is super difficult. As the same way of like understanding the abusive world that we live in. Sometimes we also reproduce it, and it's not that we will stop being reactive beings. It's just that we are bringing things into consciousness so that we can try to work on them. Any other comment? We are a little bit on the top of the hour. We started a little bit later. I don't want to take more of your time. If you have any concern, please either write it in the chat, or please, we are available. Send me a DM, and please come to the next sessions. We will be having another one on Thursday night, and the other one would be on Friday at the same hour. So yes, I hope that you've liked and that this has been useful. I think that you will like the following lessons and the following facilitators. Not all the facilitators are gonna be me, and my understanding is limited, and I continue learning from the other facilitators. So I know that you will enjoy listening to both Durgadas, Bianca, Livy, and the other special guests that we will have. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
And sharing, Juan. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that the session on Friday is the same session we just had now, and then the one on Friday is different. No, other way around?
Yeah, the one on Friday is different. We will have Durgadas, and the one on Thursday is the same session.
Yeah, so if you came to today, you don't need to come to Thursday. Make sure you get your POAP, guys. Come on, 3 POAPs. We haven't done POAPs in ages. I'm I'm avidly waiting mine to load. Yeah, so okay, cool. Then I'll see everyone.